What happens when a computer guy and a psychic start talking? The mountain bears. Aeson, popular for his existing shows, The Psychic Coffee Shop, is a certified master psychic with over 22 years of experience helping people all around the world, from housewives to CEOs and everyone in between. He is also a gay poly bear who wears his jaded glasses like a badge of honor. Although we may not always agree, we both have a commitment to coming together, hearing people out, looking past the surface issues, and getting down to the core of what is really going on.
All right, and welcome to Mountain Bears. We're going to be working on that one. That one's on the replay and fix it list. Maybe I'll, brew you up some espresso, like 3 of them.
I know. I've been needing the additional energy this week.
Yes.
Hey, Devin.
Hello, Devin. How are you? Oh, so it's been an interesting week.
Yeah. Someone had a birthday.
I did. I turned older. Yay. Hey, Brenda.
Hey, Brenda.
We have moved to espresso level caffeine.
We have.
Awesome. I'm enjoying.
Well, we've moved to at least stovetop brewed, like Italian style coffee. Like, we have had that stupid mocha pot for probably a year.
Yes. And it was
interesting. And we've started using it. And my tummy handles the espresso better than it does regular coffee. Like, someone well, I don't know if it's the fact we're using milk, and that could very well be it.
Yeah.
But no, like, it's been enjoying that a whole lot more. Like, granted, I've mostly been doing dirty chais with the mocha pot. So it's part coffee, part chai, fair amount of foam.
Yeah.
A lot of foam.
Yeah. I got a foamer for my birthday, so now we can actually have coffee shop coffee at home. We're debating on where to put the drink bar.
I know, right?
Yeah. Like, I think I do want I want a real espresso machine, because espresso has become, my godsend. So how's this week been with Aeson on Total Midnight?
Well, that part of it I think has been okay. I think you're still adapting a little.
Oh yeah.
Like, there have been a couple of times it's like, I'm pretty sure the struggle is real.
Right.
So there is that. But yeah. Sorry guys, I'm doing a little cleanup on my desk because I just had to come dump stuff in earlier. Like, it's been an afternoon. We went shopping. We got a bunch of little stuff.
I bought a new Birkin.
Do what now?
I got me a new purse.
You did. He's all set to beat the hell out of people with it.
Yes. We will need it, but
it has good, strong handles.
Yes, that was an important factor.
Beatings. Yes.
And the size.
He bought a weapon. Is what he did. And it just happens to hold a lot of stuff that he carries around daily.
Yes.
That's where that's at.
Yeah. So we done a little shopping for the birthday. Got my espresso maker, ordered me a flask. And, there's going to be different things. No video.
Is it just me? Oh, no.
Oh, hopefully we haven't lost video.
Oh, that would be horrible. I would hate to think I'm just sitting here talking to the void and you. But
hey, I can identify as a void.
All right, you can be the void.
Yeah. All right. So, I also got another birthday treat from Um,
Well, at least they're hearing us.
yeah, they're hearing us. Brenda, it may just be you because Devin's commenting in about the purse and stuff, so that may be it. You may want to refresh, honey. But let me get that checked because I need to get that tab up anyhow.
Oh yeah, I'll bring it up too. Oh, I don't always do it the hard way though, because I know that view on Facebook is one of the
Mm-hmm.
options, and I never, ever, ever use it.
No,
So we at least have video on Facebook that is active and running.
we have video on YouTube.
There we go. So yeah, Brenda, you may have gotten stuttered.
Yep.
So yeah, back and video came back. Glitch, I
Yay.
guess.
Well, that may be a thing, but no, the district attorney for Manhattan gave me a lovely birthday present this week. We just have to wait for it to be executed.
Well, yeah. So the unprecedented case against Trump will have wide-ranging implications. So Donald J. Trump was indicted in Manhattan on Thursday for his role in paying hush money to a porn star. According to 5 people with knowledge of the matter, a historic development that will shake up the 2024 presidential race and
Mm-hmm.
forever mark him as the nation's first former president to face criminal charges. On Thursday evening, after news of the charges had been widely reported, the district attorney's office confirmed that Mr. Trump had been indicted and that prosecutors had contacted Mr. Trump's attorney to coordinate his surrender. 3 people with knowledge of the matter said Mr. Trump was expected to turn himself in and face arraignment early next week, at which point the specific charges will be unsealed. Mr. Trump had for decades avoided criminal charges despite persistent scrutiny and repeated investigations, creating an aura of legal invincibility that the indictment threatens to puncture. His actions surrounding his 2020 electoral defeat are now the focus of a separate federal investigation, and a Georgia prosecutor is in the final stages of an investigation into Mr. Trump's attempts to reverse the election results in that state. But unlike the investigations that arose from his time in the White House, this case is built around a tawdry episode that predates Mr. Trump's presidency. The reality star turned presidential candidate who shocked the political establishment by winning the White House now faces, oh, excuse me, guys, now faces a reckoning for a hush money payment that buried a sex scandal in the final days of the 2016 campaign.
Right.
In a statement, Mr. Trump lashed out at Mr. Bragg, a Democrat, and portrayed the case as the continuation of a politically motivated witch hunt. This is political persecution and election interference at the highest levels in history, Mr. Trump said in the statement, calling Mr. Bragg a, quote, disgrace and casting himself as, quote, a completely innocent person.
No.
Right. So Mr. Trump has consistently denied all wrongdoing and says he did not have an affair with the porn star Stormy Daniels, who had been looking to sell her story of a tryst with Mr. Trump during the campaign. On Thursday, the 3 lead prosecutors in the case walked into the building where the grand jury, arriving minutes before the panel was scheduled to meet at 2 p.m. One carried a copy of the penal law with post-it notes visible, which was likely used to read the criminal statutes to the grand jurors before they voted. About 3 hours later, the prosecutors walked into the court clerk's office through a back door to begin the process of filing the indictment. For weeks, the atmosphere outside the district attorney's office had resembled a circus, but the fever had cooled in recent days, and the outskirts of the office were emptier on Thursday than they have been in weeks.
Mm-hmm. Now, we've got the police force now focusing in on how we're going to do this. We've got to now create the Secret Service has to coordinate this because even though he is president, we have to, even though he was president, we have to coordinate it greatly.
Yeah. So all this is from Donald Trump is indicted in New York, live updates from the New York Times.
Yes.
Felt like we should always cite those articles, so yeah. I appreciate their reporting. It sounds like at least the New York Times is just loving every moment.
Right. As they should.
Oh, speaking of loving every moment, Brenda points out that love to comment I saw they asked if he would be tried as an adult. Ouch. 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 You know, though, that may end up being not necessarily whether he would be tried as an adult, but whether he's going to like potentially have issues with competency.
Right.
Like that could be the scariest thing to come out of this is not the criminal charges, but the fact that his erratic behavior may force a competency hearing.
Right.
That would be the worst part that could possibly come out of this, as much as it would potentially grant him a legal victory.
Right. Well, I think that he's going to stall as much as he can. You know, they're going to argue everything around the sun, including, whatever they can do, whatever they can make up, whatever they can do.
Well, but he's fighting two battles at the same time, and this is where this I really think will get interesting. Is one, and not to mention that he has other legal issues going on, but one, he has the legal issues,
right,
which typically you would want to do everything you could to defend yourself, including I wasn't competent, whatever you got to throw at it.
Right.
But he has to do it under the microscope of also trying to run for re-election.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I think it'll be fascinating, and I do mean fascinating.
Here's the thing I'm most concerned by.
Okay.
Is that this could be the total opposite of Nixon. In terms of Nixon left office under indictment, if I remember correctly, or just moments away from it.
Moments away from it.
And his political career was over.
Right.
There was no hope. You could not have convinced a single person to vote for him.
Right.
But then we turn around this many years on.
Right.
Of the whole Nixon scandal. And now we have a president who may get not only on a ticket while under indictment in New York.
Right.
He could honestly end up being sentenced while in office.
Yeah.
And then how do you play that? And is that even registering with voters that you could be electing someone or attempting to, voting for at least, someone whose presidency is going to have to entertain, what do you do when the president gets sentenced to prison?
Right.
Do you let him just assign the powers to the vice president for the duration? I don't think he's facing long imprisonment on this, is he?
I think it's 20 years.
Oh, right. They're going to sentence him to 20 years.
Well, I don't, it's 20 years could be life for him. I mean, let's get real.
Well, right. And I think that's going to be a large consideration to it.
Yeah.
Despite if he's guilty, despite if it's, clear, obvious, you were so flipping guilty.
Right.
I think you're going to have a hard time trying to put him in prison for 20 years over Stormy Daniels.
Well, I know who she would like to have him in prison.
Pardon?
She would like to have him in prison.
I debate that.
Okay.
There's part of me, and maybe it's wrong, I think she is doing the largest power move of any adult entertainment person ever. I mean, this has kept her names in the headlines.
Right.
This has made her a household name.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a big deal.
Right.
Professionally, I'm just saying it isn't hurting her.
Right.
Professionally speaking,
Right.
if anything, it may make a whole career for her
Mm-hmm.
in a way that is so like Kleenex and Xerox and
Right.
just everyone knows the name, everyone knows who she is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, if she doesn't end up one of the, and there's no telling what that turns into.
Right.
I don't say this in any bad way because I don't think it would be a bad thing inherently,
Right.
but presidential porn star could become a thing for like 2028.
Well, and that would be interesting. I mean, because we've had presidential, we've had sex scandals. Like, I don't know
Right.
why the American people cannot get over that your president has a sex life.
Yeah, well, typically it's not that the president has a sex life. I
Right.
mean, I'm pretty sure all the way back to George Washington, someone's been bent over that oval desk.
Right.
And I think we all kind of get that like there's no way in hell if you're president you're not doing that at least once.
Right.
We just really would prefer to, one, not think about it, and two, for it to be the first lady.
Right.
But if it's not the first lady, we just really don't want to know about it.
Well, but see, here's the problem with that overall. Hi, Shannon. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome.
Hey,
Um,
Shannon.
this is the problem: is that the president, in general, we've had some people that made names off of the, sleeping with the president, Marilyn Monroe.
Well, Marilyn Monroe benefited positively through lots of rumors and speculation.
She did. She did.
And I mean that's again like you have like she was a very sexually desirable human being.
Right.
Um that had the attention of someone who was known to be a very sexual human being,
Mm-hmm.
who had lots of affairs that his wife really didn't seem to give a shit about.
No.
Like, you know, and didn't have that same kind of strained resilience of like Hillary Clinton.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, and that's the other part of this that I'm looking at it and going, and um, like I don't care, who you're having an affair with. Hillary Clinton, and is known and has been known, and Bill Clinton both have been known to have open relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and it really didn't matter until he lied to the American people.
Well, it wasn't just that he lied; it was also just the way. Like, if she and I know this is going all the way back to the '90s, and the idea is almost preposterous at this point.
Right.
If you're in the '90s,
Right.
but I really think it probably would have done more
Mm-hmm.
for them if it had been like, yeah, we have open relationships, and
Yeah.
next.
Right.
And she could have just been there like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And just seemed totally fine with it. Like, it's another day at the office. This is what our life looks
Jackie
like.
Onassis done. She was like, and
Yeah, exactly. That was my point. Basically, was that Jacqueline Kennedy had no delusions
right.
of trying to present her life as anything other than what it was.
Right.
And she was fine with it, or at least appeared to be, at least she had the good grace
Right.
to handle it all with meh.
Even in her biographies,
Yeah.
she didn't care. She
Right.
literally did not give a care. It's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, he had his fun. I had my fun. We had an understanding.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem that faced the Clintons was her trying to walk the line of
Well,
like, oh, I like she never really feigned shock and awe,
right.
but there was always that yes he did
Uh-huh.
kind of, and it's like I think that was more what kept it as such a big deal.
I think what is more that kept it such a big deal, for me and for everyone, was she used "Stand by Your Man,"
Oh, yeah,
and
that was
that made the story bigger because that pissed Tammy Wynette off.
well, yeah, of course that was gonna happen, but no, and it's just the fact that when you get to Stand by Your Man, it's pretty much.
Well, what I find
Uh,
hilarious, and very few people realize this, is "Stand by Your Man." The next song is "Divorce" on the album.
yeah, basically. Well, yeah, because if you look at like Tammy Wynette and her discography, it's usually well, and many artists have this. It is sometimes like you can't take the songs independently.
Right,
You have to take them as at least the entire album.
right,
Is that like you started at a point
right.
and you end up at a point.
Mm-hmm.
And like the album itself is an
Right,
entire story,
right,
and that's just each song is a snippet of the story.
right.
So like if you take it in totality, it's oh, Stand by Your Man, just
Mm-hmm.
okay, grin and bear it, you just have to take this crap
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that morphs into no, I'm done,
right,
I'm done, I'm
right,
done, I'm done, I'm done,
right,
you know. And then some artists kind of lose it after that. I do have to point out is that then their discographies get weird,
right. And
and
that's
it's just
the
compilation of whatever
insanity.
someone thinks they'll be successful.
Yeah, the insanity of it. And it was re-released in '99,
Right.
remastered in '99, which was hilarious because it actually boosted her sales.
Oh yeah. Well, and the fact that like she was angry and it was a controversy
Uh-huh.
and it was yeah,
Yeah.
on down the line. Like again, someone else that took advantage of a sex
Uh-huh.
scandal to, like make some money.
Right.
I and revived her career. And I think a lot of people got rekindled
And introduced.
or introduced for the first time to Tammy Wynette. I'm not saying
Right.
that's a bad thing. I'm just saying like no, everyone cashes in.
Right.
Like you find yourself at the center of a sex scandal, the worst thing you can do is go into hiding because then everyone else makes money but you.
Right.
Like
I just find it amusing. I also wonder how the American people would have dealt with if it came out that the president was polyamorous.
oh, which president?
Any of them.
You know, uh, well, and I think there is some degree of that. I don't think it's called that. I don't think sometimes they're even thinking in terms that it's just
Sure.
this is like this is the price of admission.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want the nice literally with Trump the gilded apartment
Mm-hmm.
and a
Right.
very very lovely address,
Right.
or not?
Yeah.
Because
But
if you want it, there's some crap that goes with it, and here's what it is: you're going to shovel some shit.
right. But no, if we look back at the presidents, a lot of people named Teddy Roosevelt. Well, he had a secretary for many years that he was very comfortable with. Lyndon Johnson's secretary was also his second wife. Um, Kennedy has been known for his affairs. Reagan, the only thing that we know about the Reagans was apparently Nancy was the queen of blowjobs. Stuff I find out from Dan Savage.
Well, that's great. Things I never wanted to envision. Ronald Reagan on the receiving end of oral sex. That just thank you for that. Thank you.
Sorry, young Ronald Reagan was quite cute.
I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm saying I like his voice and mannerisms and everything. I don't want to. No, no. That.
But no, it's like, and someone wrote a book, I believe. Let me check Professor Google. Um,
As we Google the sex lives of presidents, like, and since everyone else is cashing in, now's probably a great time to remind you guys to like, share, and subscribe, and consider joining our Patreon.
yes.
And telling us you support this.
Yes, there is a book called The Sex Lives of Presidents.
Oh, there you go.
So that would be interesting.
Yeah, well, but the whole thing also comes back to like there's this weird intersection between people with power and typically either, a borderline sex addiction, mostly because I have trouble calling excessive quantities of sex an addiction.
Right.
I think you can misuse anything to do whatever it does for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, in terms of, like, you can abuse coffee, you can abuse the internet, you can abuse porn, you can abuse sex, you can abuse anything.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that in and of itself creates an addiction. I think for some people, it fills a void. It's sort of like, I have problems with the idea that someone's a food addict. I think you can abuse food to fill a void, to emotionally cope through food.
Right.
I don't know that it's anyone. I have trouble labeling someone a food addict.
Right.
So the same kind of applies, unless it has an actual addictive agent.
Right. Well, I don't know. I think there is some issues. First of all, coffee abuse is coffee poured down the sink. Just to clarify, we are going to, if you're going to abuse caffeine, misuse of caffeine is very important. It's very dangerous to do and should be forewarned not to happen.
Right.
But there are some things that I think are addictive, and I think that it's not really the addictive item. It's more so the root cause of it. Yes, I'm going a little Freudian here. Like food addiction is an oral addiction. It could also lead to other addictions. The internet, I don't think, is addictive. I think the behavioral or the loss of connection that you are seeking off the internet, that's the main addiction. If we go back 20 years, somebody that was addicted to, going out and being in public and being with people, there was a real social addiction. And there was a lot of talk about that. Now they're trying to say it's social media. No, it's just replaced it and made it easier.
Well, and I don't call that, like, some people are just social butterflies. They are socialites. They need social attention. And so, yes, you handed them connection to the entire effing world.
Right.
What did you think was going to happen? Like, they just can't put that down because this is the greatest social interaction you could ever possibly have.
Right.
And I kind of see that in terms of, like, we have been surrounded by actors and actresses for years.
Right.
That, some were very reclusive. Like, God help Audrey Hepburn show up for an interview.
Well, I think she had a lot of mental issues, though.
Right, but she was a phenomenal actress.
She was a wonderful actress.
But she didn't sign up for the adoring fans and total constant scrutiny and attention.
Right.
Like, she was just like, I want to go in, I want to do my job, I want to make great movies, I want to make some money at this, and go home.
Right.
Versus, like, please try to Betty Davis, Joan Crawford, get them to not do an interview.
Well, and I think that
love the attention and spotlight after the filming stopped.
after the filming stopped. But I think but we got to look at their training.
Mm-hmm.
They came up in theater. They came up prepped for this. I don't think Audrey Hawford came up into that idea coming out of that theater because she's done a lot of community theater.
Mm-hmm. But again, she never, she was not a super social person.
No.
Not saying that she was antisocial. I'm just saying she was not a super social person. She was like, I want to go in, do my job. I appreciate that you appreciate what I did, but I don't want all this.
Right.
Like, leave me alone. I'm like any other professional. I just want to go home.
Right.
Versus Joan Crawford and Bette Davis that love the attention, just constant, please attention me more.
Well, and I think that's because they saw the benefit in the finances of it.
I don't know that that's the only reason they did it. I think they personally just enjoyed that. And that was my point, was that before we had social media, before we had, that there are some people that are just very social.
Right.
That love any opportunity, and it can very much empower their careers,
right,
which it did for Joan Crawford and Bette Davis, to be willing to go anywhere and do anything and love the throngs of fans just everywhere you go, and be warm and receptive towards them,
right,
is a wonderful thing. But you contrast that with Audrey Hepburn, and God help you,
right,
you are not getting her to do a press junket.
Right.
You will do that through kidnapping.
Right.
You will have to roll her on stage with a dolly, and she's going to be locked to it.
Right.
And it's like, here, perform.
Right. But again, I really think it's depending on how they entered the business, what they did with the business, and the era of the business they entered in. Because they entered in different eras of the business.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying some people are personally more
adapt.
Yeah. It co-meshes, it commingles.
Right.
I think it's a certain set of skill and desire and ability, and I think some people don't even recognize that about themselves. They just find it out.
Right. Well,
you know what I mean? It's an accident. Surprise, someone hands you a cell phone or a tablet and a connection to the internet, and you find social media,
right,
and you start talking to people, and I think some people just go, oh, well, that's kind of nice, and then use it primarily to talk to people they already know in limited quantities.
Right.
And then you have people that, are just, oh my God, I can talk to anyone in the world. Holy crap. Yes, please.
Well,
I will make new friends everywhere. And it's sort of the same thing we went through back in the 90s, getting computers and home internet.
True. Although I was really surprised, and I made a comment to this. So Mama Night has, is an older generation. She didn't have any of this. If you wanted friends, you needed to go and email people. Well, not email, write letters, and she still writes letters. But she is highly, and I was like, wow, you are really on this, because she's talking TikTok and this and another, and I'm like, when did you get TikTok? And she's just all into it, and I like watching this one. I don't like watching that one. This one bores me. And I'm like, okay.
What the hell? Retirement reimagined, right?
Well, not only reimagined, but just okay, on the off chance that Mama Night ever decides that she wants to no longer maintain her current lifestyle, and she would like to go to assisted living, or she would like to go to, or needs to go to skilled nursing, we now have to add something to the list. They have to have Wi-Fi.
Do you have Wi-Fi? What's your internet connection like? Are residents allowed to have personal, electronic devices?
Right. Because she is spoiled, because her favorite son is in IT. So she has the Alexa, which she loves. She has the um, laptop. She has the tablet. She has the cell phone. She is all into it.
Her tablet has cellular data, guys. Like, like we're not even there yet. Like my iPad doesn't even have cellular data.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I got a Wi-Fi over to a hotspot on my phone. That's what I've got to do. Because mentally I can't justify the extra expense, but here she is, she has a tablet with cellular data.
Yeah.
And it's like, dear Lord, like how can you need the internet that bad? Calm down, woman. Calm down. You might miss a Facebook post. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
But
she's, and it just hit me because we're sitting there, birthday dinner, yada yada, and she's like, "Hold still, I've got to," and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I'm thinking, text now. I've got to tell such and such, such and such, and I'm like, "Oh my God, my mother is more addicted to the internet that I had to have a war and a battle with than I am."
Oh, believe me, I have to say, like, I had the same realization with my father.
Okay.
Because before, like, and I grant one of my sisters so much credit for buying him a computer, is because it really did change his perspective.
Okay.
Because one, he kept just sitting there being like, well, that I was just playing on the computer because he didn't really understand, like, try to talk in the 90s about the internet. Our parents were clueless.
I know.
They had no idea what was out there, what was available, what you could do, like, and it didn't interest them.
Right.
Little did I know if I could have explained, like it's like having, a ham operator license,
right,
without any of the trouble of like taking a test and paying a fee.
Right.
If I could have explained that to him, he would have been all over it and bought his own damn computer. None of us thought about it.
Right.
We totally forgot he was a ham operator.
Right.
Totally forgot that in trying to explain the internet to him.
Right.
Is like, it's better than ham radio. If we told him that, he would have gotten it and been like, I want a computer.
Yeah.
But no, he had his own moment where he finally got one, and it was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
You couldn't get him off of it. He lived at his desktop. Like, he never got into smartphones.
Right.
Like, he was a little late to that party. Like, he died in 2010, or 2011, excuse me.
Right.
So, like, he kind of missed the whole smartphone era. Mostly. Like, it was here, but it really wasn't here. Like, he barely, I think he did actually end up owning one little smartphone, and it was so sad.
Yeah. But
like,
no, I was just really shocked, and she's like, no, I've got to do my 6 o'clock post. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I know. She's on a posting schedule and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
but she may miss something, Brenda says. Yes, exactly. That's the problem we're facing. So the idea that there's a future that may involve like nursing homes, skilled nursing care, some institutional setting, and the things we're going to have to go through.
Right.
Like, once upon a time, you cared if they had color television.
Right.
Once upon a time, you cared if you were allowed to have cordless phones or not, and answering machines for the resident. Like these are just little things that, or like, did they have cable, or was it, good luck with your rabbit ears?
Right.
Like, what's the scenario? Now it's, do you have an internet connection, and what's your speed? Because that's not going to support, social media live streaming for 150 people.
Right.
Like, and there's going to be a moment where, and she may be ahead of the curve on it, but there'll come a moment when it's like, no, one of your biggest flippant or stupidest expenses for operating a skilled nursing facility is like having fiber internet run to your facility.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have 150 residents and they have Instagrams and TikToks and they live stream 3 times a week from the community room.
Exactly. And I could see her, like, I've thought about it before, and we may talk to her about it and see if it's something that she wants to do. Mm-hmm. Is, because she brought up knitting talk. I didn't even know knitting talk was a thing, but apparently it's a very large thing.
You've missed knitting talk? How did you not get in? How did the algorithm not hand you a knit talk?
I don't know. Maybe me and Mom wasn't close enough.
Okay, whatever. At least I've gotten. Although I have to say, God help you, TikTok. You it really thinks that I'm either. Well, I think TikTok thinks I'm really into people who are into pup play. Oh. Listen to that carefully. Not that I am into pup play, but I'm really into people who are. Because it just keeps loading me down with all the pups. And it's one of those things I don't have a problem with. I think I think they're cute, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know that I'm really into that. Mm-hmm. But it keeps throwing them over to me. And I'm like, okay, that's cute. Next.
But I'm just just in my head, I was sitting there doing the calculations of, okay, so my mother cannot be the advanced species of her generation.
Yes, she can.
Well, she probably can. But the other side of the page there, and the other side of the thought process was, dear gods, they want to take TikTok away. They're not only going to piss off the younger generation, they're getting the older generation, which is the ones that normally vote.
Yeah. Trying to shut down TikTok? Yeah, no. That's going to go horribly. Like, ooh. All right. Well, I think after 42 minutes, I think we need to take that first commercial break and then get back on topic.
We will. We'll be right back, guys.
Hey, everybody. Lady Gwendolyn here. And as a certified spiritual life coach and shadow practitioner, I have thrown together everything that I have learned to develop a program that works for healing our shadow self and focusing on how we're going to heal ourselves for the future. I work with different types of energy work, such as EFT, TFT, and EFT energy, Reiki, access bars, and power forms. I've put them all together to create my own system that works. We also work with the tarot and the oracle. So I'm not just an energy worker and a healer. I'm a psychic as well. So you can go to Lady Gwendolyn Healing, find out all about me, and book with me on there. I love you guys, and I will see you out there.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van. I'm a psychic medium, and I work with tarot cards. I also practice Reiki and access bars. I would like to share with you what a reading with me is like. It is a blended reading of psychic and mediumship, and I deliver these messages exactly as they come through. I'm not going to mince words or add any padding. I am a professional, reliable, and honest communicator. I have readings available anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. You can book a reading with me at tracyvann.com. That's TracyVann.com. And no, I'll always tell you exactly what you need to hear.
Welcome back, Goblins! My name is Jason, and I am the host of the Esoteric Book Club, a podcast that examines titles on the magical, paranormal, the mysterious, and the strange. I release 2 episodes a month in which I review books on esoteric topics, recap news of the weird, and conduct interviews with authors, practitioners, and experiencers. The Esoteric Book Club can be found on every major podcast service or can be streamed directly from esotericbookclub.org.
Do you have a cute pet? We know you do. Each week, Tracy Van chooses from submitted photos a featured reader for her Facebook page and provides a tarot reading. Your adorable pet cat, dog, rabbit, goat, chicken, snake, or more could be her next featured reader. Visit tracybann.com, TracyBann.com, and click Featured Reader to submit. We look forward to seeing your pet next.
Hey, welcome back. All right, so what's up next?
All right, so up next, we've got order calls for garnishing governor's wages, and auditor's office says it will comply as it would for anybody. So this is from West Virginia Metro News, and court judgment proposes to garnish the wages Jim Justice earns as governor to resolve a big business debt, and the state auditor's office says it is prepared to comply just the way it would for any similar court order affecting a state employee. Quote, when we receive a wage garnishment order issued by a court, it is processed as directed by applicable statutes, rules, and regulations, stated Callie Cart, spokesman for the auditor's office in response to a Metro News question about how the matter would be handled. This is done without regard to whom the order is directed, whether a state official or employee, including the governor. The wage garnishment order was filed this month in circuit court in Randolph County on behalf of Citizens Bank of West Virginia. The garnishment was first reported by the West Virginia Record. The garnishment is a response to a judgment from last October for $850,000 in debt by Bluestone Resources, the coal business owned by Justice's family. The total amount also includes $13,793 in interest, plus a cost of $27 for the court filing. The court order calls for withholding 20% of the governor's wages after state and federal tax deductions, or the amount of the governor's post-withholding wages that for each week exceeds 50 times the minimum hourly wage. Withholding would continue for a year unless the full amount is paid sooner than that. West Virginia's wage for governor is set at $150,000, although Justice has often said he donates his to charity. His most recent state ethics disclosure form specifies that he donated all of his 2022 earnings as governor to the State Department of Education's Communities in Schools program. Since becoming governor, Justice has declined to place most of his family's businesses or business holdings into a blind trust, instead saying he has turned over their operation to his adult son and daughter. So Justice, a two-term Republican governor, is considering a high-profile run for U.S. Senate. As Politico noted last week, if Justice enters that race, he would have to file personal financial disclosures that could lead to heightened scrutiny of his financial holdings. So, yeah. So we kind of go on from there.
I have a problem, and here's the problem. Why is it not law that all your investments have to go into a blind trust? Like, sorry, you're now serving in public office. You cannot sit there and go, oh, well, my adult children control it. Please, you think Mama doesn't know what's going on in my business?
Right. Well, and I think this is one of those things that it should it have been codified? Yes. Was it codified? No. It was taken as it was a clear and obvious conflict of interest,
right,
to both wield power
and
be able to do so in a way that could positively benefit your bottom line.
Right.
So, what you could do as governor could also positively or negatively impact what your business can do.
Right.
You should be as distanced from that as humanly possible.
Right.
I mean, even though he set it up for his kids, or even if he were to hand off entirely,
right,
like, sell the companies, be out of the companies, have nothing to do with the companies, depending upon how that's structured, like if that's something he can, buy back afterwards, he's still not going to try to do anything negative to them.
Right.
He may not always do the best for them, but at least he wouldn't be constantly
Right.
like trying to add a few extra dollars or seeing the quick and immediate opportunity to add a few extra dollars here and there.
Mm-hmm.
If he is divested of his companies.
Right.
But instead, and this is becoming more popular, unfortunately, are elected officials that keep their, so to speak, day job.
Right.
The political office has become a side hustle.
Right. But here's the problem, though, and here's the continual problem I see with this. It drives me insane that these people are not supposed to have business dealings. Okay? They're not supposed to have a second hustle. That's why we supposedly pay him $100,000 to drive from Lewisburg every day down to Charleston and to do his job, because the governor's mansion wasn't good enough.
Well, yes, and that's been a contentious issue in the state of West Virginia as well. But no, and granted, $150,000 is not what it used to be.
No, but at the same time, Buddy Boy wants to run for Senate, but he can't even pay his bills. Why should he be making rules about my bills?
Well, here's the thing, though, and this is a very weird thing about the rich, is the rich hate spending money.
Right.
They'll delay it. They will penny pinch it. They will ask for discounts. They will ignore bills. They will just not pay stuff.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing in the world is the behavior of someone who truly is harmed financially by their bills.
Right.
That has no ability to pay their bills because of their financial circumstance.
Right.
The behaviors of the extremely wealthy and the extremely poor are often functionally the same.
Right.
Like most of their bills are paid late. Most of them have horrible credit.
Right.
And that was a weird thing I learned in debt collections. Is there's like most of the people with good credit that pay on time are in the middle.
Right.
They're neither extremely wealthy nor are they extremely poor. Like there's no they're always in the in between.
Right.
Because the people who end up in collections are people who legitimately cannot afford.
Right.
Like there's no way. $150,000 medical bill? Are you kidding? On what? With what? They'll be 20 years paying that.
Right.
Versus the people that could find $150,000 between their couch cushions won't pay their bills either.
Right. But here's my thing, and my bigger thing is how irresponsible can he be getting it to this point? If he's so rich and powerful, if he can drive like a damn maniac, if he can run through Burger King, why is he allowed it to get to a garnishment stage? I would have been at least making a deal with them.
Well, fundamentally, though, a lot of this also comes back to that whole can't get blood from a turnip concept. Is there are many that and again, it applies to the wealthy, and it's a weird little factoid.
Right.
You can go to court, you can get a judgment, and then are you going to enforce it? Like, there's a lot of like playing chicken. Like, do you have the cojones to go down to the courthouse, pay the $27, as they're talking here about the Randolph County Courthouse fee is $27 to file this garnishment.
Right.
Do you have the balls to do it?
Right.
Because if you do, then yeah, we'll pay it, and you can sit here and wait for 20%, the $30,000 a year, for a while, And some of it comes back to time value of money, It's a better deal for him to pay $30,000 a year out of his elected wages, elected official wages, and burn that interest than for him to write a check and be done with it.
Right.
Like, it all goes back to the original saying, you don't get rich by spending money.
Right.
So what's the cheapest way to pay it?
Right.
Is hope that someone, won't even bother to go file the garnishment.
Right.
Or that they won't take you to court in the first place to get the judgment that allows the garnishment.
Right.
Or once they do all that, just sit there and, like, you make me.
Yeah.
You drag it out of me.
Right.
And you'll wait at 20% per year.
Right.
To get paid.
Right.
Have a nice day. And then you get to look like, because on the flip side, this bank gets to look like the bad guy.
Right.
Because he donated $150,000 last year.
Right.
And now that's going to be $120,000 this year.
Right.
To the State Department of Education's Communities and Schools program. So that program just lost $30,000 because a greedy bank, and this is how it's going to play out, because a greedy bank wanted their money.
Right.
That's how it's going to play out.
Right.
That's what it reads like. That's how it sounds.
Right.
That, Citizens Bank wanted their $850,000 so bad.
Right. And it's not that. It's that our governor does not pay his bills.
No, he just doesn't. Can he get away with it? Obviously he can.
Right.
Like, it's the weirdest crap in the world.
Right.
I swear to God, gated communities full of rich people are more of a trailer park than a trailer park.
Right.
It's just nuts. It's just, there's not that same, like, fear.
Exactly.
Like, when you're poor, you're scared to death, like, the power's going to get cut off, and the water's going to get cut off, and the car's going to get repossessed, and everything else. The rich don't have that. They're like, just buy another one.
Right.
Because there is incidents of that. Like, that was part of the debt collections process. Some of the deficiency balances on cars are because some rich asshole bought a car and then just never wrote a check to the bank. Like, that's it. Went and bought a car. Because, again, like, if you're Jim Justice, you have this much money, we can call the bank and find out how much money you have. Okay, fine, whatever.
Right.
You can write a check to buy a brand new 2023, whatever you want. So, yeah, we'll give you financing and a loan for it. Sure, we want to make, 5, 10, whatever interest percentage points we can. And typically rich people don't dick around about trying to bargain it down.
Right.
Like, the car costs what the car costs. You tell me a number and I'll agree to it and sign the paperwork and drive out of here. The flip side of it is they'll continually be able to go back to even the same dealership.
Right.
Now, is that dealer going to be like, well, we want a bigger down payment this time? Like, you're going to have to write us a check today.
Right.
Yes, they are. But they'll still give him another car loan. They'll still let him drive off the car with a brand new lot.
Right.
Or a brand new car they'll let him drive off the lot with. It's not that big a deal. And then probably won't make the payment.
Right.
But hey, it's free advertising. And we're making this scenario up, but imagine the advertising. The richest dude in West Virginia drives a car from XYZ Motor Corporation right down there on, blah, blah, blah Boulevard. Come in today. It's free advertising.
Right.
I mean, it's the weirdest thing in the world when you stop and think about it. But they get their cars repossessed just as much as the poorest people in the world. It kills me.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Moving on.
Yes.
Let's see. What do we want to talk about? DeSantis, Mississippi Planned Parenthood.
Oh, I don't know. You choose.
Let's go Mississippi Planned Parenthood sues over transgender inequality. This is what you guys are going to see a lot more of is Planned Parenthood standing up for gender affirming care, Planned Parenthood standing up, GLAAD standing up, the ACLA standing up. It's going to be a continual suit.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So this comes to us from the AP, and Missouri's state attorney general is investigating gender-affirming care provided by Planned Parenthood, according to a lawsuit filed Friday by the St. Louis health provider.
Right.
Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey demanded documents from Planned Parenthood after finding out that the clinic provides, quote, life-altering gender transition drugs to children with any therapy assessment. Spokesman Madeline Siren said in a statement. She described that as a departure from standard care. Planned Parenthood of the St. Louis region in southwest Missouri sued in response, trying to block access to its records. In court filings, the healthcare provider argued Bailey has no authority to investigate the clinic, which is inspected by the state health department. A Planned Parenthood doctor described Bailey's investigation as a, quote, fishing expedition, targeting the clinic, which provides gender-affirming care to adults and teens ages 16 and older. Dr. Colleen McNicholas, the health center's chief medical officer, told the Associated Press that the Attorney General's investigation is an attempt to help him work outside of the legislative process and eliminate access to transgender care for Missourians.
Mm-hmm.
The Attorney General's office cited its ongoing investigation into transgender youth clinic run by Washington University, quote, or others in the state providing similar services, as the reason for the document request, according to a letter to Planned Parenthood dated March 10th.
Mm-hmm.
Siren criticized Planned Parenthood for withholding its records. We look forward to prevailing in this request for information and learning what is truly going on with Planned Parenthood in connection with gender transition issues, Siren said in a Friday statement. In February, Bailey launched an investigation into the Washington University Transgender Center at St. Louis Children's Hospital, following allegations of mistreatment by a former employee. Excuse me. The ex-staffer alleged that physicians there did not warn patients and parents enough about potential side effects of puberty blockers and hormones, and that doctors pressured parents to consent to treatment. Planned Parenthood argues in its lawsuit that its clinic has nothing to do with the Washington University Center. So, yeah, the lawsuit comes amid a national push to restrict transgender healthcare, drag shows, bathroom access, and how LGBTQ plus topics are discussed in schools. The lawsuit was filed Friday, and as rallies were scheduled in cities nationwide as part of Transgender Day of Visibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And then, again, this article goes on from there, but mostly just keeps adding minor.
Right. You know, his office doesn't follow the rules. And we're going to see a lot of this. We are going to see a lot of political movement. I mean, you know, DeSantis is still having a showdown with Disney, whose lawyers, I want to say, are amazing. What they did was basically they made an agreement with the Disney-controlled thing that's going to basically make DeSantis useless to 2058. Well, hopefully by then he'll be in jail. I mean, you know, he's amid other charges going on. But I think that, you know, we're back into the legal fights again.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the level, the number of different fronts that transgender life is having to fight to exist on.
Right.
That receiving affirming care, let alone healthcare at all, but affirming care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bathroom usage, we're still there.
Yeah.
We're still arguing that one. And it's like, oh, for God's sakes, can we stop?
1964.
To, you know, the all the laws coming into effect, or at least into a state capital near you, trying to restrict whether or not, you know, they can do any number of things from, you know, be around your children,
Be around their children.
Be around their own children, like, or make it, illegal for a parent to bring them around you. Like the levels of fight and the directions are insane.
Well, but these are the directions we knew they would head to, or at least I had the foresight to know they would head to. That once marriage equality was ratified by federal government, then they would start trying to nip around every little corner, every little thing they can get around.
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting that as we have, it's kind of odd where it's like we're going through the alphabet of, the LGBTQ
plus
alphabet soup.
Right.
And as we get recognition that these individuals are legit human beings deserving of dignity, respect, and freedom, it just falls to the next letter.
Right.
And goes, okay, well, we're definitely not down with those.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. They targeted lesbians first. The medical community has been targeting lesbians for years. Because there are many that have wanted hysterectomy. We don't need this. We don't want this equipment. Get rid of this equipment. And we still have doctors that refuse to do it.
We still have doctors that won't let women have their own actual reproductive healthcare decision.
Yeah.
As in, I don't want children. Thank you. You can shut this down.
Right.
I never want children. Like, you can, do a tubal ligation. It's a real simple, effective birth control.
Right.
To prevent pregnancy, because I don't ever want to be a parent.
Right.
In most places in this country, women cannot make that decision.
Right.
Without a man, or without being told about some future man who's going to want children from her.
Right.
And that it should be his decision as to whether or not. And that you should definitely wait till you're older.
Right.
I'm sorry, if you were talking to, like, say, a 13-year-old,
right,
I could almost see the argument.
Right.
If you're talking to a 25-year-old, fully grown adult woman with a job, a college degree, and everything else,
right,
make it make sense.
Right.
Make it make sense.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? So, anyhow.
Right. And it's just like, literally, we learned this last century. We're going to learn it again this century. Can we get it? All humans are equal and have the same inherent rights to health care, food, safety, shelter, and the pursuit and liberty, and our elected officials to do the jobs that we hire them to do. Fix my roads, trade with my international people, collect your taxes, pay your minimal salary required by federal law, which means you live on minimum wage, like the rest of your constituents do.
That would be a moment. On that last one.
Yeah. I think that would be amazing to watch how fast our government would change. How fast our representatives and senators actually show up and do their job when they stop getting their $100,000, salaries and all their perks and benefits, and they get treated like regular humans.
Yeah. That would be an interesting moment and would certainly change the dynamics.
Oh, I think so.
And I think we would start paying more attention to the fact that minimum wage would be going up
quickly.
Not that we'll mind paying them extra if minimum wage suddenly skyrockets.
Well, again, I think it would be a very much big change.
Yeah. But that is where we unfortunately are at, is we are just watching one by one. The letters have to go through this attention and demonization and prove you have the that you should have the same rights as everyone else.
Right.
And fight for your right to health care, fight for your right to not be labeled medically with a disorder.
Right.
And to just exist
Right.
comfortably in a public space 95% of the time.
Right.
95% of the time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not greedy. I'll go for 95% of the time. I'll take 5% of my life as like, I think I need to leave.
Right. You know, I think that, you know, we're going to need a good legal system. We're going to need a case to go up to the Supreme Court and to be thrown down. And I mean thrown down hard. And I think we need to expand the court. I think that's the next move we need to be making in this country is we need, if there are 50 states, fine, then we get, you know, each justice is responsible for 3 states. So do the math.
All right. So that works out to what, about 15, 14, somewhere in there.
16.
Oh, excuse me, 16, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to rerun the numbers in my head, and I went,
Right.
Wait a minute.
Well, 17. There has to be an odd number, so 17.
Yeah. So we'll go with 17 justices to represent the... I just can't imagine that committee trying to come to a decision. Sorry, that's a lot of justices.
Right.
That's a lot of different legal minds. Like, I still think our current Supreme Court has grown too large.
Well, right now we have 9
Mm-hmm.
trying to deal with laws in 50 different states.
Mm-hmm.
Pop it up to 16. Flood it with 16 justices, 17 justices. That more than doubles the court. And then let's see. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm. I think it could be very interesting at this point.
Right.
Because I don't think you'll get support after 16, after, adding 8 justices to a Supreme Court.
Right.
I don't think you're going to get support for a very long time to expand the Supreme Court.
Well, I also think we should put term limits.
On Supreme Court?
Yeah.
What are we talking? Are we talking like 4 years, 8 years, 20 years?
I don't know. I'm thinking 12.
Okay. So basically at least a president and a half.
Yeah. Because UK, the United Kingdom, has 12 justices for as small as a country as they are.
So stagger it in thirds.
Mm-hmm.
So every 4 years, we set up a new, we replace a third of the Supreme Court justices.
Yeah.
On a 12-year cycle.
Right.
I can understand that. Because again, and generally speaking, you want your Supreme Court justices to be very experienced in the legal field.
Yeah.
So that does tend to skew our Supreme Court older.
Right.
Like Brett Kavanaugh, quite the exception.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm sitting there looking at him when he was, appointed to the Supreme Court going, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like, not only does he not have the record to do it, he just seriously, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like,
now, there is currently H.R. 5140 that is in the House. It's in the Judicial Committee that would regulate. A bill establishes an 18-year Supreme Court justice, 18-year term, and it limits justices' advice and consent authority and regulations to appointed adjustment. It also requires that an opening, if a vacancy in the court, the Chief Justice must assign a justice most recently designated as senior justice to serve in the court for the appointed until the new one, and Senate authorities have 120 days to fill the vacancy. No matter what year or time it is, they have 120 days to fill it.
Right. Well, I was just looking. So Brett Kavanaugh, currently 58. Let's see, and was appointed in 2018.
Right.
So that was 5 years ago.
Right.
So at 53, he could legitimately have a 40-year term as
Mhm.
Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, what?
Mhm. Yeah.
Like,
That's what we're dealing with. And
just to compare.
right. And I think he should, the Supreme Court, and I really want to take control of Supreme Court justices out of the hands of the elected officials. Now, you got to run for the states you actually organize over.
Mm-hmm.
Put the voting power back to the people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I was just looking at, Ruth Bader Ginsburg
Mm-hmm.
was on the Supreme Court for 27 years.
Right.
And I think we could have all argued that she may have been pushed in the last couple.
Right.
Like, I'll be fair. I think she was an amazing justice. I'm just saying the last couple of years were probably a push.
Right. That's why I think that every elected position should be term limited. I also think they should have terms.
Yeah. Well, and I think previously the term was you died.
Yeah, there's no dying in office.
Well,
justice.
Yeah. Generally speaking, we want to avoid that. But I mean, though, like the idea was that you would be elected at a point or appointed at a point in your life
Mm-hmm.
in which this is kind of you're pretty close to retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're very experienced and seasoned in
Mm-hmm.
justice and law. And, you're going to do this for, I don't know, 10, 12, 13, 14 years, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. And then you're either going to die or just decide, I'd like to fish more.
Right.
I'd like to travel more.
Right. Again, this is another reason why I think that every department needs term limits, and they also need a max of terms. You can only, 2 terms is all you get, and I think you should have to be elected.
Oh, is a Supreme Court justice be elected?
Yes.
I don't know.
Because in the state of West Virginia, you do not have to be a lawyer to be a magistrate.
Yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't have to be a member of the bar to serve in the Supreme Court. You do not have to be a lawyer to be a Supreme Court justice.
Fair enough. Generally, the appointments, though, typically take care of that. Is that, why would you appoint someone to the Supreme Court that doesn't have a law career?
Exactly. All right, guys, let's take a break, and then we'll be right back to find out if Joe's the asshole this week.
Absolutely.
Hey everybody, Lady Gwendolyn here, and as a certified spiritual life coach and shadow practitioner, I have thrown together everything that I have learned to develop a program that works for healing our shadow self and focusing on how we're going to heal ourselves for the future. I work with different types of energy work, such as EFT, TFT, and EFT energy. Reiki, access bars, and power forms. I've put them all together to create my own system that works. We also work with the tarot and the oracle. So I'm not just an energy worker and a healer, I'm a psychic as well. So you can go to Lady Gwendolyn Healing, find out all about me, and book with me on there. I love you guys, and I will see you out there.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van. I'm a psychic medium, and I work with tarot cards. I also practice Reiki and access bars. I would like to share with you what a reading with me is like. It is a blended reading of psychic and mediumship, and I deliver these messages exactly as they come through. I'm not going to mince words or add any padding. I am a professional, reliable, and honest communicator, I have readings available anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour. You can book a reading with me at tracyvann.com. That's TRACYVANN.com. And no, I'll always tell you exactly what you need to hear.
Welcome back, Goblins! My name is Jason, and I am the host of the Esoteric Book Club, a podcast that examines titles on the magical, paranormal, the mysterious, and the strange. I release 2 episodes a month in which I review books on esoteric topics, recap news of the weird, and conduct interviews with authors, practitioners, and experiencers. The Esoteric Book Club can be found on every major podcast service or can be streamed directly from esotericbookclub.org.
Do you have a cute pet? We know you do. Each week, Tracy Vann chooses from submitted photos a featured reader for her Facebook page and provides a tarot reading. Your adorable pet cat, dog, rabbit, goat, chicken, snake, or more could be her next featured reader. Visit tracyvann.com, TRACYVANN.com, and click Featured Reader to submit. We look forward to seeing your pet next.
All right, welcome back. We're still getting used to the ends. Of course, new breaks will be coming out next week. We do our season change next week, so that'll be fun. All right. So, are you an asshole?
Am I the asshole for telling my brother he can't see my son after a road trip that he took him on? My 9-year-old son, Cameron, spent his spring break on a road trip with my brother, Jackson. My son came back home today, and all the clothes that I packed for him were untouched. He was wearing today what he was wearing on Monday. I asked my son when was the last time he showered, and he said on Monday when he and his uncle took a shower at a pool. I asked why he didn't shower the other days. He just shrugged. I had to bathe him and wash his clothes twice. I asked my brother what was up with my son not showering for 4 days. He said my son just didn't shower, but he made sure that he brushed his teeth and washed his feet. I told him that he was irresponsible and I can't trust him with my son anymore. Therefore, he can't see him unless me or his mom is there. My brother told me I was way overreacting and he was just letting him be a boy. All right, where are you at with it? Like, you're struggling.
Well, I'm struggling to grasp. How old is this child again? 9?
9.
Okay, 9-year-old boy.
Unshowered 4 days, no change of clothes.
No. Not happening. You're getting hosed after a day and a half.
Well, I'm struggling with this one just a little. It's clear and obvious that, like, you're not a parent. Like, Uncle is not a parent. Jackson is not a parent, obviously. Right. I think this called for a very stern conversation about if you don't do this, you will not be allowed to take him again and one more chance.
Mm-hmm.
Would be my version.
Right.
I don't necessarily think you're the asshole for it. I do think you are quite mad, and that when you calm down, you might be able to be more open to the idea that, like, look, don't screw this up.
Right.
Like, you get one more shot on this, you screw it up, and no, seriously, you'll never be alone with this child again. But yeah, I think someone was trying to be the cool uncle and screwed up royally.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, you have a 9-year-old, you're gonna have to tell him to go take a bath.
Right.
Like, and it sounds like there's a reasonable amount of, like, expectation that this wasn't gonna go perfectly.
Right.
Like, you weren't going to wash behind his ears. You probably weren't going to be the one to physically bathe him. You know, you were going to be reliant on he went and took a bath.
Right.
And changed clothes.
Right.
You know, and that would have been like, he's a 9-year-old. At least, you know, he's not going through teen sweaty funk.
Well, that's debatable.
Well, true. More kids are hitting puberty earlier.
Exactly. Furthermore, yes, I understand this is a campsite, but there were showers at the campsite. You took it on Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it sounds like there was a more than reasonable expectation that he could take a shower.
Right.
That it was for lack of force making him do it.
Right.
Not for lack of access to facilities, whatever. And it seems like Brenda's in the same boat with me. Is it needed a stern talk with brother?
Mm-hmm.
That like you don't do that again.
Right.
I think you'll get there.
Right.
I mean, because on the flip side, it sounds like otherwise.
Right.
This child has another adult in their life that cares about them.
Right.
That was willing to take them for a week and, you know, well, for 4 days.
Right.
On a fun road trip adventure.
Right.
Now it's just playing cleanup.
Right.
Literally and figuratively with the mess that made.
Right.
I think calm down. I don't think you're the asshole, but I think you need to calm down.
Right.
Like, do it again.
Yeah. No, I think you are an asshole.
Oh, yeah. So Shannon says 9-year-old boys smell. If Uncle was okay smelling him, fine, but Mom could have had a stern talk about expectations of if you want to spend time with Uncle again, you better make sure to take a shower, and a similar one with Uncle. But I grew up with 4 brothers. They would go 4 days at a time before I'd make them take showers because I couldn't stand the smell of them, but I'd have to wrestle with them or wrestle them into the tub.
Yeah. See, this is why I love this house. It's because where the water hose is accessible to goes right into the windows.
Do what? Oh, the water hose goes right into the windows?
Yeah, it can fit right into the windows. I'll shower you.
Well, there's that. But no, I don't think it's the end of the world. I really don't think it was intentional, like, neglect.
Right.
But it is one of those things that, like, that's kind of neglectful.
Right.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you're going to have to argue with him. He's a 9-year-old boy. No, he doesn't want to go take a bath. Like, we'll be willing to cut some slack for, no, we don't expect you to physically bathe him.
Right.
Yeah.
Send him to the shower.
Send him to the showers.
Yes. Show him where they are, because apparently he knew where they were. So, do I think the uncle is totally at fault? No. Do I think the uncle is at fault for being a bad co-parenting at that situation and guardian of that situation? Yes.
Yes.
And I'm tired of this boys will be boys shit.
Yeah, well, I think humans will be humans. I think girls do it too. We just don't talk about it. Because, you know, oh my God, the delicate flowers can't be this nasty. Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Yes, they can. Yes,
but it's
are.
easier. It's easier to talk about it with men.
Mm-hmm.
Than it is to be like humans. But no, I think it's just one of those, like, do the basics. It doesn't have to be a good bath.
Right.
It just has to be a knock off the stink and change your clothes, fresh underwear.
Yeah.
And move on.
Apparently he abandoned. Like day 3, apparently they were burned, according to the comments.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh, okay. No.
Hey, let's move on to poly relationship advice.
All right, communication styles. How do you talk with about communication styles with newer partners? Context, I have a newer partner. He definitely doesn't text as much as me. What he lacks in texting, he makes up for in in-person hangs. He says he regularly, quote, falls into black holes, end quote, and his friends won't hear from him for months Because of that, sometimes it'll take him 3+ days to reply to me and often leaves me on read. I'm not trying to text every day or even weekly. Admittedly, being left on read for days at a time does leave me feeling unconsidered. In general, I don't like to feel like I'm chasing someone, and if they don't reply to me, I don't usually send a nudge because the ball is in their court. I don't think this person needs to change anything, but I do think it would be worth a discussion on different communication styles for clarity on my end. So, how do you determine what works for you and the other person?
I think that this is a great topic, and it's more than just poly advice. This is actually a relationship in general topic.
It is.
Okay. And I deal with this all the time. I'm also a very different type of communicator.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk to you when I'm in the mood to talk to you. Your text does not demand my attention. Your Facebook message does not demand my immediate attention. Matter of fact, I removed Facebook Messenger from my phone. If you want to talk to me, there's an easy way to do so. There's an 800 number with an extension attached to it.
Yeah. There is that.
Yes. And I feel probably this dude's method of like, no, I have to talk to enough people during the day.
Fair enough. But I think there's a big difference between like general like friendships and
Right.
things like that. Then like, no, this is your partner. Like your partner shouldn't have to dial an 800 number and pay, per minute.
Right.
To tell you like or ask you when we're going out to dinner.
Right.
And I think that might be more of where this is sort of at, is like
Right.
trying to set up next dates or next experiences, next things.
Right. But at the same time, if she's texting daily or weekly or whatever, and it's a non-replyable text,
yeah,
then what do you do with that? From your view, because you're a very different communicator than I am.
I think this is a situation where you may not be asking questions, but you think you are.
Uh-huh.
And here's my example for that is, are you saying things like, I think it would be really great to go to this new restaurant?
Okay.
And that's a suggestion for like setting up a next date.
Right.
That's not a question. Like, there's no question mark at the end of that.
Right.
That's not a question.
Yeah.
That just sounds like a declaratory statement that you think it'd be really great to go to this restaurant for a date.
Yeah.
Ask a question. Like, make sure you're asking a prompting question.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure it's a clearly prompting question. Like, do you think that would be something you would want to do this week?
Right.
Would be a great ender to that one.
Right.
I would also suggest not accept that text and email and any form of digital communication just doesn't work for this person.
Right.
Not in an immediate response, not in a, this is a really great way to communicate in our relationship. It's not going to work.
No.
And this is kind of clear.
Right.
It may be your preferred method,
mm-hmm.
but it's not theirs.
Right.
So consider picking up the phone and just calling.
Right.
And have no guilt on that.
Right.
Like, it sounds like this is someone who doesn't engage in conversation when they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you call them in the middle of a business meeting, you're going to voicemail.
Right.
If you call them and they're busy, you're going to voicemail.
Yeah.
So don't have the guilt that you have of trying to make it convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And instead focus on getting your needs met in communication and being willing to just go ahead and call and call back.
Right.
Or send a second message and be like, hi, are you there?
Yeah.
But now that doesn't handle all of the communication issues.
Right.
Because I think the next part of that is going to be, are you going to be fulfilled in a relationship that is this low communication?
Mm-hmm.
Because it sounds like this is someone who doesn't have a whole lot to say unless they're face to face.
Well, and I think that it has a whole lot of things that I hear often. I get lost in a hole. I get lost into something. I get, and for me, attacks will come in unless it's some, today's world, we get hit with 100 of them. I mean, every move that apparently Domino's makes thinks that my phone must be informed of it. I get texts from this, that, and another. So texting is not my game.
Mm-hmm.
Chat readings, text readings I do, but at the same time, if you're not within that bandwidth of what I'm doing at that time, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. Well, and I think there are those moments you do have to accept that.
Right.
But that requires some follow-up on the other side.
Right.
Like if you're, I don't have a problem if I send you a very non-emergency message.
Right.
Or make a very non-emergency phone call.
Right.
But if I call you 3 times in a row and I've sent you, 5 texts, an original one that's like, hi, I'm broke down on the side of the road, I need help.
Right.
As well as, additional text of like, have you seen this yet? Are you like, where are you? What are you doing?
Right.
I would get very, very, very upset about that, and I would feel very much like this person does, which is, no one cares.
Yeah.
There is no shining knight, there is no, help coming.
Right.
Versus like, hi, someone's making a choice.
Right.
And like, no, I can't talk to you right now. Or even that, just making that part of the conversation you're gonna have to have.
Right.
That I need you to at least acknowledge.
Right.
Just acknowledge. Because sometimes that's more so where communication problems start, is the lack of acknowledgement.
Right.
Just saying, oh, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And be done with it. Just you read it, you saw it, you understood that I would like to do this. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Right.
As basic communication.
Right.
This is what, and telling a partner, this is what I need you to do.
Right.
I need you to very basically acknowledge I said something and I exist.
Right. And I will when I get to my phone.
Mm-hmm. Well, but even in like the scenario, because I wasn't saying you would ignore me on the side of the road. And
no, I don't
would have to call you multiple times, so you still wouldn't answer.
Right.
I'm saying if like, but that sounds sort of like where this communication is at.
Well, no, it sounds to me like this communication is at the point of, so what'd you do today? I went to have a bar and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no.
Not interested. Like, not affecting me right now. I'm at work.
Yeah.
Like I saw it. I didn't have time to respond to it, and I didn't bother to go back and respond to it. But that's what I'm saying is like they're putting out effort to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like I was describing the situation. Like now, my first thought personally would be like, is he dead?
Right.
Like if I have to send you multiple messages and call you multiple times and you're responding to nothing, my first thought is, are you dead?
Mm-hmm.
Are you awake?
Mm-hmm.
Is your phone dead?
Mm-hmm.
And all your devices, is there a power outage?
Right.
Followed by like, okay, how screwed was his day?
Yeah.
That like, because he's got to be locked into something.
Right.
That's taken some time, because it's not like I'm going to send, like, granted, if going back to my theoretical, I'm broke down on the side of the road and like this is an emergency. If I've gone through all that, it's probably been a good hour.
Mm-hmm.
So I and this is, in my perspective, an emergency situation. I'm stuck on the side of the road. What the hell are we doing?
Right.
Like I need input and information, and like where are we at?
Right.
Like where do you want the car taken to be fixed, and what are we doing, and like how are we getting, like I need information.
Right.
I would try to think through it and be like, is there a reasonable explanation? Like, has it been a reasonable amount of time?
Right.
And then, yeah, you got to nudge.
Yeah.
Like, you got to nudge. Like,
Right.
some people just need it.
Right.
And sometimes you have to be very explicit with a nudge. I need you to respond to the following.
Right. Or, give their question.
Mm-hmm. Questions definitely help with getting return communication. Otherwise, some people, it really does hit them as that's just informational.
Right.
Like if you're sending a message of like, hi, I have to work late. I am going to miss our date. So sorry.
Right.
You may be expecting a response of, oh, that sucks. I really wanted to see you, and instead you just get red.
Right.
Sometimes you literally have to throw a question mark and the words, are you okay?
Right.
Is that okay? Are you okay? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Where are your
As
thoughts
stupid as those little phrases are, it's enough to be like, oh, I need to respond to that.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, and I think at times, it has a lot of trying to figure out what to do with things, where to do things. And I will clearly state, sometimes I think that, I said something and it didn't happen.
Okay.
What I mean that is I texted you, but I didn't text you.
Uh-huh. Sort of like that time we bought a house just outside of Whitful.
Agreed. I really cannot wait to move to that house just outside of Whitful.
That was his weirdest wake up to date, was talking about our new house.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there going, what the hell are you talking about? Well, we went and we bought the house and blah, 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 blah. And it's only a few minutes from your sister's and da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, honey, you took a nap.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happened. We didn't buy a house. But you had already, like, anywho. But no, sometimes there are those communication moments where you thought you said something. And we all have those. Like, I mean, because there are times I read something and I was going to respond, and hell, sometimes it's just still sitting there. Like, other stuff came up. I didn't hit send.
Yeah.
Like, I had a very complex, involved idea, and I was trying to type all that, but then, like, the invisible assistant had to go to work. Right. And it's like, oops, sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, right. I've had to get very good about, like, if that occurs, I just have to stop my brain for a second and be like, did I hit send? Because right now I know that I typed a message or was typing a message. Did I hit send?
Right.
And if I can't send what I've typed, can I, remember or make a note, like, you've got to finish that.
Right.
Like, what's my plan for finishing? And sometimes that's just drive the invisible assistant to work and then sit in the parking lot for a minute.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And I think this is part of communication skills that people just aren't taught, is how do you handle communication? Like, literal, the nuts and bolts logistics of you're doing all these things. How do you remember to go back and finish that message? How do you remember to go back and text someone? How do you, respond in a way that lets someone feel heard, accepted, and like they exist? The nuts and bolts. Pure basics. I don't think we teach that to some people, and they need it.
Yeah.
It's not intuitive. Some people just don't have it.
Yeah. Some people also have a different way of thinking. Texting, emailing, Facebooking, messaging. That is new technology for a lot of people. That's not our inherent nature. And if I need to talk to you, my first response isn't to text you. It's to pick up the phone and call you.
Yeah, that typically is yours. Like, you will pick up a phone at a drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
I will typically at least message someone and go, hey, are you busy?
Yeah.
Or, hey, like, can we make some time to talk? Or do you have some time now?
Right.
Like, and generally I try to make it like, here's the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I personally hate that moment of like, oh, we need to talk later.
Uh-huh.
That is like, you want to wreck my day, say those words to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to go through a list of anything and everything I could possibly imagine that I have done wrong, that I might have done wrong, that, like, and I'm going to eventually get down to, depending upon how much time I have,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be practically at the borderline of divorce by the time we have this conversation.
Yeah, I've learned I can't tell you I need to talk to you later.
Yeah, no, please don't ever do that. Like, no one ever. Like, that's because I go into a spiral with those words, because it's like, and then, like, I 99.99999% of the time, it's always,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I just wanted your thoughts on this. And it's totally benign. It's no big deal. It's completely whatever. But I will lock into this, like, progressively worsening
Right.
idea of what this conversation and this thing that's so horrible you have to talk to me later about is.
Right.
And it's like, I don't need that stress in my life.
Yeah. Again, that's why or I will email you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, email me or just give me a subject. Tell me what the subject is.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me the subject.
Right.
Like, hey, I need to talk to you later
Mm-hmm.
about the kitchen sink and what we want to do.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I will probably forget in the intervening, like, X hours that you even said that, because my brain has went, it's not that big a deal.
Right.
I can have this conversation later. And so when you come back in and say you want to talk about the sink now, I'll be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. But, that's when you've reached my, okay, you're asleep and I need to give you complete understanding of here's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the documented proof of the issue. And, you will get an email.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, sometimes I do have to say, people can go too far with communication. That's the other thing. And
Yeah.
I don't know if that applies in this one, but it's probably worth mentioning on this topic,
Mm-hmm.
is that some people do get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to talk about the date we had, like, there's a limit to the number of messages, or
Right.
like to the length of a message. Like, if you send me 45 messages about the date we had,
Mm-hmm.
and then I open my messenger or I open my email or whatever, and there's just a sea of communication.
Yeah.
There's a fair number of us that will lock up and be like, I don't even know where to begin.
Well, there's a fair number of that, but there's also a fair number of people, and I've noticed this is what, and I got into the email technique, who will not only lock up, but they'll read the last message, which could be, hey.
Well, and sometimes that's because the last message is the first one you can visibly see.
Yeah.
Like, sadly.
Yeah.
Because if you are in a messenger or like text messaging, whatever, like application or wherever you're looking at it at, it's reverse chronology. Like, you open the message, the first message it shows you is, hey, or what's wrong, or what do you think?
Yeah.
And then you have to scroll up to figure out, okay, what are we even talking about?
Right.
So sometimes it's good to end with the lead.
Those communication styles, and that's the thing, is you got to learn to operate within them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of dating. And it's a lot of different days. Men have the more trouble with this. Men are not communicative unless it's something that's heavy on their mind, and then they may lay everything all out in a half hour and deliver it within the next half hour.
Yeah. Or sometimes it's, like there's this kind of like whatever you want to do.
Right.
Like, and that can be a big part of it, is that, like, I've had a long day, I've had a lot to deal with, and it's not men, that's men and women and any human being, that, your message may be hitting them, even though, like, yes, you understood that, like, they don't check their messages during the day.
Mm-hmm.
You still get fallout from the job.
Right.
In which, opening that message and having to make a decision.
Yeah.
Is just like, I can't even.
Right.
Like, I can't decide on dinner. I can't decide anything right now.
Right.
I'm overwhelmed with the amount of things that I've had to deal with today.
Right.
Whatever. You think this restaurant's really cool and trendy, but you also think this one's really blah, 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 blah. And you're just not sure which one you would like to go to, and da-da-da-da-da. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
Flip a coin.
Or in this one I love is they're doing this full debate about the next date. It's like, I don't know, 3 weeks out, 4 weeks out.
Mm-hmm.
At the middle of my day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going on this date at this point. Because by the time we get there, you've already decided the full damn date. What we're eating, where we're eating, what time we're doing it, all this. And it's like, I don't know what my life is going to look like in 2 weeks.
Right, but from the other person's perspective, they may be doing that because they're excited about it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is what I want to do, and this is where I want to go. And like, they're sharing that excitement with you. And yeah, there can be that moment where you open the message and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Uh-huh.
Like, we're doing this in 3 weeks. You can calm down.
Yeah.
But that's not really true. They're expressing their excitement. And on a level,
mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to know what to read and how to read it.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, look, they're expressing excitement. They had a really great time, and they're already wanting to have the next experience, even if it is a few weeks out.
Right.
And they're visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it in their head, sort of like your Mel Robbins thing.
Yeah.
They're kind of having that moment where, like, they had so much fun with you.
Mm-hmm.
They're already wanting to experience and have mentally a next date. And so, yeah, they're being very verbose about it.
Right.
It's a good thing.
Right. But at the same time, it's like, calm the ferocity.
I can say that I've had that reaction to a few messages in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, are you serious right now? And I have to remind myself, this is someone who's really excited.
Right. But I also have to remind myself that this is the generation we live in now, where everything is talk. Oh, I'll talk to you here and there. And it's like, I need one conversation, one place.
Mm-hmm. That's a big one for me. And we did have to work that out.
Mm-hmm.
You'll just comment and message wherever you happen to be.
Right.
Like, if you're sitting in front of your email, you'll email.
Exactly.
If you have Messenger in front of you, you'll send a messenger. If you're holding your phone and you have text messaging up, you'll send a text.
Right. Yeah. Now we love Slack. Slack is what me and him use for our company communication, some of our personal communication, mm-hmm. but it's because we can divide it by topic.
Yes. And no joke, as silly, crazy as that sounds, and I know nowhere was Slack really intended for this. Like, the business side of it, yes, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a use case made to Slack yet that, like, do you know what this could do for relationships?
Well, especially poly relationships, because you can sit there and divide the channels up. There's Housecom, we have group text group, everything else for Housecom.
Mm-hmm.
But you can divide up the topics, and it's like, okay, I need to respond to this one now.
Mm-hmm.
I have one that's called Aeson Shopping, and I can just post in the things that I want.
Mm-hmm.
So that he knows that, if this and this go on sale for this price, we want that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes it's a lot, and what I do appreciate about it is because you get in, so to speak, struck by inspiration
right
throughout your day.
Right.
And so you'll have different ideas on different topics, and sometimes they're just interjected.
Yeah.
And for me, that it's a struggle, if we're having a very serious conversation,
mm-hmm.
to then also be, get ooh, there's a coupon for this.
Right.
And it's like, I'm not done with the other conversation, thank you.
Yeah. There's very few friends that can have my 6 conversations at the same time. Very few people.
Oh, so Brenda has a relative that texts 5 minutes later a messenger, hour later something else.
So they would get put into my spam folder. They would be blocked on my messenger, and they would be required to email me and they would be set to auto respond, which my auto response is, "Hi, I'm currently creating the universe. I'll get back to you in 72 hours."
Basically. I do have to say, I had a friend in college that I had to have a serious talk to her about her expectations in leaving me voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've brought this up before, but it's been a while. Because her messages, she would just call you till you answered.
Right.
And even back then, I'm not a phone addict.
Right.
I do not live with my phone in my hand, ready to serve your whim.
Mm-hmm.
Typically it's in my pocket with a ringer cut off. It's for my convenience, not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And I generally apply that to other people.
Mm-hmm.
But she was one that would, she would call you and leave a message, hang up, call you back, leave a message, hang up, call you back, leave a message, hang up. And these messages are getting increasingly, it starts out with the reason she called,
mm-hmm.
and then 42 messages if you wait 42 minutes later.
Mm-hmm.
She's already, trying to decide if you're dead or alive.
Right.
And it's will you please take a breath?
All right.
One, let me get through your... Do you know how long it takes to listen to 42 voicemails? I do.
You may.
I do.
No, because I'll see them all, and it's nope. If it was important, delete, but call me back.
Well, the first time it happened, I saw she'd called, and I'd missed a bunch of calls, and then all of a sudden I saw I had 42 new voice messages.
Uh-huh.
And so I just, I forgot about the fact she called, or the call count. I saw that she called a bunch of times, that it didn't register how many. And then I, go to check my voicemail, and there's 42 new messages. Mm-hmm. And I start listening, and because now I think that, oh my God, what blew up?
Yeah.
Who died? Mm-hmm. Why did 42 people leave me voicemail? Uh-huh. That's my first thought the first time it happened, is why do I know 42 people to leave me voicemail? What in the hell has happened?
Yeah.
And I listened to 42 voice messages, all from the same person.
And it's like, girl, one. And then there was a call about, you filled my voicemail up.
I called her, and I gotta say, I was not the most tactful person in the world. I was like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Because that was the only thing I could think to say. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, you just left me 42 voicemails.
Over dinner.
Not even that important.
Oh, wow.
She had a random idea and wanted to share it with me.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a thing occurred, just she had an idea. And she called me to share this, and then it turned into this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you have to calm down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you cannot do that again.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you right now, you are going to end up in a boy who cried wolf situation. You don't want that.
Right.
Because I'll just quit checking your voicemail at some point at all.
Right.
And I'll just assume you've had another thought come into your head and shared it with me. You need to save that multiple messages thing for serious problems.
Well, and I think that, people should realize that in today's world of continual communication, people are not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, because we're in constant contact.
Right.
With everyone, everything, every software you have ever bought, every person you have ever talked to, every client that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point where it's like, I can't read all this shit.
Right.
I'll be brutally honest. I can't read all this shit. I don't have time.
Yeah.
Like, I have to pick and choose.
Well, not only that, but there comes a point in time when it's like, this is not the game today.
No.
Other things to go do.
Yeah. Well, and I have to say, like, and I know we're kind of beating a dead horse, but I do want to add on, like, where I manage so many not web pages, Facebook pages.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, my messenger can fill up quickly.
Yeah.
Not just my messenger, my notifications fill up inordinately fast.
Well, I'm still working on how to get rid of that.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's getting better. You can now just select what you want to see. Like, do you want to see all of it or just yours?
Right.
Like, just for this profile.
Right.
I'm loving that. Thank you, Facebook. My life needed that a while ago.
Right.
Because we literally got into a conversation about the fact that I wasn't, like, seeing all kinds of things.
Right.
And it's like, honey, like, I'm sitting there with my cell phone, like, honey,
Mm-hmm.
like, this is what my notifications look like. Because you had tagged me in something, and it was like, you didn't even go look at it.
All right.
And I'm like, where is it? Find it. Where's Waldo?
Right.
Find Waldo. Show me where Waldo is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't find Waldo. I can't find anything.
Yeah.
So I am really grateful for that one, to have the ability to just filter out, okay, specifically, I want to look at my notifications. Screw all these pages and the 1,500 things that are going on them, because most of them don't involve me.
Yeah.
I'm there in a purely fallback capacity.
Right.
So,
purely the administrator.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's been a lovely evening. We've had some good conversations. Now it's time to look at the poll, and the last poll is, in general, it's a 50-50-50 split.
Okay. Wait, it's a 50-50-50 split?
Yes.
Honey, that's not how that works.
Well, it does. Now listen to
Okay.
it. 50% of the votes said, yes, you're an asshole. The other 50% said, everyone is shitty here.
Oh. Okay, so it really is a 50-50 on whether or not it's 100% or 50-50.
Right.
There we go. So it is a 50-50-50.
Right.
Okay, I got you. I follow that now. So, yeah. All right. I can follow that everyone's shitty here, as well as you're not the asshole.
Yeah.
Or you are the asshole.
You are the asshole, and everyone's shitty here.
Everyone's shitty here.
Is the verdict.
Okay, I'm fair with that. Alrighty, so of course we want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda, Shannon C, Shannon D, Lady Gwendolyn, Charles Shaw, Dottie the Psychic, Tracy Van, Caitlin Bell, and Devin. If you'd like to learn more about us, the show, or how you too can become one of our Patreon sponsors and receive all the benefits our baristas receive, please visit pcspnetwork.com.
All right, guys, we will see you on Sunday with Psychic Clip Plans. Make sure to get the video next. The video on YouTube should be going up of the first planner, and we will have the Psychic Clip Plans Budget Edition up tomorrow also. So you're going to get 2 for 1 because I'm behind in uploads. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Bye.